Pursuit of Podcast, a purely guest-centric show focusing on people and organizations that advance positive change. Positivity can be anywhere, and in a time of vast discord, the pursuit of is finding those who champion its causes loudest. Join us as we sit and learn about the pursuits of local leaders in their community. Let's go.
Hello, good people, and welcome to the Pursuit of Podcast, where it's truly not us, it's you. I'm Ryan Buck, Artist Development, New Leonard Media. With me is the boss, Mark Wilson, President, New Leonard Media. How are you?
Hey, hello. I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How were the holidays?
The holidays were great, man.
That's really okay. Yeah, that's enough of that.
Okay.
So our guests today are Charles Orns and Dave Martin, partner owners, Urban Meds Organic Medication. How are you?
We're good.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
Thanks for having us.
Look excited to podcast. Now, this is relatively new to both of you.
First time ever.
Being on a podcast?
Being on a podcast.
Do you listen to them?
I used to listen to them a lot more back when I first started.
Right, or when you had time.
Yeah, when I had time.
Right. And are there any, cannabis industry podcasts that you recommend?
Well, the one he's talking about is, I believe it was called Canna Insider.
Okay.
And we used to listen to it when we were growing more in the grow room a lot more back then. So
okay,
we'd have
so
that going.
You have some ambient.
Listen to
Get
that.
a good tip. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. How would you describe Urban Meds to somebody who didn't have any concept of what it was, even from the name, your elevator pitch, Urban Meds?
Well, I mean, it's an herb and it's a med. It's a natural herb that can be considered a medicine.
Right. And what you do in that space is what?
Well, we provide custom medication plans based on cannabis for clients.
So it's the holiday season, and for many organizations, retailers, and the like, this particular holiday season is busier, a busier part of the year. Is that the same for you and this particular business?
Just like the Christmas month?
Yeah, the Christmas season. You think about that, retailers get busier.
It's probably busier just like normal retailers for the winter months. I'd say summertime's our busiest time of the year,
Right.
Yeah, you do get that little flux.
But
before Christmas.
During the Christmas, you get that push.
But does it stay consistently busy for you throughout the year? Do you have peaks and valleys? Summer is a tourist time here.
I mean, I would say we got some peaks and valleys, not too many.
Right.
Well,
that's good.
Pretty steady for the most part.
Yeah. And you can stay as busy as you want or need to be.
Yep.
So you started out with this pursuit 10 years ago. And in the cannabis industry, from then to now, what has changed the most since that time? And what have you been most surprised that's changed, either positive or negative?
When we first started, it was strictly medical, card to card.
Right.
It's definitely got a lot laxer out in the day to day with everybody. I mean, we're out there. Our goal in the beginning was to help break the stigma, and we've definitely have seen a big change in the stigma over the last 10 years.
I mean, like 10 years ago, I was still scared to tell people what I did. Now I've talked to anyone about it.
So when you started, this was a brave thing to do. This was non-traditional. People could have looked at you and said, well, what are you doing?
Exactly.
This isn't
people,
okay.
People did say that.
So you've used the word stigma, and in this industry, that word comes up a lot. Now, the biggest message that you have that you probably scream to the sky is what? This is not this, it is that.
It's not a drug, it's medicine.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
Like any medicine, you can overdo it. It's not all the bad everyone thinks it is when you break it down to milligrams and really dose yourself properly.
Yeah, there's a lot of stigmas.
Right.
Like people don't understand that we can deal with a person that has never dealt with cannabis their whole life, or a person that has used it heavy their whole life, and dose them properly for whatever their goal is they're trying to use the cannabis for. So,
well, on that point, how does the process in working with Urban Meds work? Because it looks like you're able to provide a very uniquely customizable plan or experience for patients.
Yeah, that's basically what you're paying for.
So when you start contacting you, what happens? They call, they email. What is the experience?
Yeah, they
talk to Dave. Okay.
If you call the phone, you usually get me, and we set up a time. I kind of go over a few things to get to know you a little bit on the phone, but more or less I want to come in and meet you and kind of understand your use of cannabis, your
history with
what
it,
your history
or maybe
is.
never experienced it
Have
before.
you ever experienced it? What are you wanting to use it for? And then that kind of helps us judge what we should customize to that patient, you know, and if you don't have a big experience, we obviously just want to graduate you into the THC by using CBD and THC together.
Right.
So like by just customize to the individual by finding out what they're trying to do, you know.
I think there's still a lot of confusion about CBD and THC and like what the differences are on that, and
I mean, they're cannabinoids. They're different cannabinoids in the plant. You know, there's THC that's very psychoactive, and there's a dominancy of that in a lot of varieties of cannabis out there. There's now CBD, which is a non-psychoactive cannabinoid that is very predominant, just like THC in plants.
And then how do you get the difference? Like, how do you know?
Well, I mean, once you find, you know, obviously you can find the genetics through seeds. You find the genetic, and then you want to clone that genetic, that CBD dominant. You want to keep it around. So when you're cracking the seed, you don't always know that it's going to be a full CBD, or it could be a 1-to-1 ratio. You never know until you grow it and test it in a lab to really know what it is.
There's no way to know without a lab test officially.
Then you find it, and then you try to do some breeding work. When you might crack some of those seeds open and find a male, then you want to, you know, pollinate the female that you did find. So you can kind of try to stabilize your CBD genetics, and that's how people do it on the THC side too. They just keep trying to preserve the genetics by breeding.
Interesting. He's throwing out a whole bunch of stuff, genetics.
Yeah.
And what you just explained to somebody who might not know, this is science. This is artistry. This is chemistry. Alchemy.
There's a lot of science to it for sure, and there is. I mean, you got to break it right down to the terpenes, to the cannabinoid profile, then you get to take them and put them to a chart and see what all those are wonderful for. See, it's not just CBD and THC. This plant's got so many cannabinoids in it. It's not talked about because they're not predominant like CBD and THC are. Those are like the couple of the main cannabinoids.
And to anybody listening, Ryan and I had the opportunity to stop by your place here in Travers, not the storefront. And it looked like Dexter's laboratory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was
not what I expected.
Yeah.
So incredible. Well, your mission states, and a lot of others in the space, and I quote, to improve the quality of life for those with serious illnesses, arthritis, chronic pain, cancers, digestive issues, and more. And we kind of touched on this before, but do you feel like that message is getting out there more positively, that this is something that can help you feel better? It's proven. You think that's better today than it was 5 years ago, that this is medicine?
That the people know that?
Yeah.
For sure. I think so. I think a lot of people are turning to it.
Do you attribute that? Do you attribute that to something?
At the beginning, a lot of people would it'd be their last resort. They'd be on their deathbed before they would try it. And now we see more people earlier in their stages of cancer or their illnesses wanting to try that first, where we always preached, you know, use the natural medicines and everything first before you go down the road of all the pharmaceuticals.
I never even thought about that till you just pointed that out. When we first started this, it was somebody that, you know, only made it. We had to wait for them to get their medical card to be able to help them out, and they didn't even make it to be able to try it, you know?
Yeah, we had one guy die before his card came, and we couldn't.
Now we're seeing it like he's saying. Now I am seeing it where people are calling first. What's this all about? What can you tell me?
Right.
And that's why I like to get them into the office. I can show them what I'm talking about with cannabinoid ratioization and explain to them the differences of CBD and THC. I mean, in nature, it's the same plant. It's just how it was bred,
right?
And what's in that one and this one, and it's all the same.
You've been caretaking for a long time, so like, how do you get into that and position yourself as, I guess, as the experts? You know, like when people are coming to you guys and gain their trust right off the bat.
I mean,
our experience probably is our biggest attribute. I think, you know, we've been doing it for longer and working one-on-one with the people, you know,
which has allowed us to research a lot of it, working one-on-one with somebody.
All right.
And we've done a lot of self-research and a lot of reading, a lot of sitting through as many things as we can sit through to teach us what this plant's all about. And like he says, that's been able to match that up individually with people. You know?
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, you touched on something I think that's interesting, is that caregiver is a word strongly associated with the cannabis industry. So to those unaware, what does caregiver mean?
It means that, you know, we're pretty much your cannabis caregiver. We're putting together your cannabis treatment plan. We're going to follow up. We're going to research your other medications you're on, your medical history, and then apply that and do our recommendations of what we can use, your drug interactions, because, sometimes there is some drug interaction stuff that you want to be aware of.
And you guys have registered medical staff, like,
yep, we have
working with you too.
Registered nurse on staff. She's the one that will go through all the medical stuff for us and then apply our medicine into their regiment that they're on.
So as I understand it, a success story, for example, can be a patient comes in, you do this assessment, or let's say they're on 20 medications. They abide by your plan and their pain is reduced, anxiety, whatever it may be, and their medication's going down. Are you finding that is a positive side effect?
Yeah, we've had plenty of people that we've been able to watch them get off some of that stuff. You know what I mean? But we've also had the handful where it.
And we're not saying that appropriate medication is a bad thing.
No.
But it can be seen as a positive in a few different tertiary ways.
Yeah, we've seen people be able to get themselves off some of the pharmaceuticals they weren't pleased with, the ones that they didn't feel right on, side effects,
or they've been on them for 20 years, and they're it's time to get off of them. They're just doing more damage than good at that point.
Is this a saturated market? Is there a lot of caregivers in our area? And
I don't think it's saturated caregivers at our caliber.
Okay.
I mean, the normal caregiver in Michigan has been a person that is just using it to grow pot to smoke.
Okay.
For the majority,
So under some of the
no one
caregivers,
took it as serious as we did. I feel
he's right about that. Yeah. It's like, there's a lot of caregivers, right?
You look at the numbers, there's a lot of them.
And when Charles and I got together, it was just him teaching me how to grow, and then like us going on a trip, kind of like, well, man, let's help people.
So under some of the caregiver laws, what you're saying is like a friend just decides he's going to be his other buddy's caregiver, and he does the growing for
grow some. I would say recreational pot, more or less, not necessarily growing medical.
There's not enough caregivers around right now that do the research.
But there's a lot of new dispensaries that popped up, and
I'm
not even understanding how the laws work for some of the big guys that have come to town. There's a lot of shiny lights.
I mean, do they provide this level of service? A typical,
the ones I've been into and to ask, I've purposely walked into some of these places to ask them these kind of questions to see responses, and I don't get the responses I feel like they should be giving.
Sure.
I'm not trying to
because I think a lot of
anybody. I think
more of a retail sales situation.
Yeah,
they're trying to.
We don't got to say names. I was just curious.
And I think medical doctors, if you approach your medical doctor with this, they'll probably all say the same thing. There's not enough conclusive research. I wouldn't say yes or no, but it is an option. Right?
Yeah, and that's something that's changed over
we've seen that
the time too. As doctors, at first you'd never. Your doctor would tell you no. Now we're getting people
recommended from
saying, "Hey, a doctor told me to kind of go this route and try this out, maybe."
So I noticed something interesting, a service that you offer, and will you really shovel somebody's sidewalk if they ask?
I mean, if they needed it done, I would do it for them. Yep.
That's a tremendous niche offering, as a concession.
haven't been asked yet.
Nobody's asked?
Yeah.
Well, that is on the website. What is the website?
Some of the people we deal with, they wouldn't be able to do a lot of the conditions that were.
So that was done a little tongue in cheek and a little reality.
Yeah.
So what is the website that potential patients, clients can go to see what you're offering aside from sidewalk clearing?
It'd be urbanmeds.com.
Awesome. That's great. So talk to us about the H&M Wellness Store.
Yeah, I mean, that came about throughout the journey last year. CBD went federally legal under 0.3 THC or less. So we got offered from a friend who owns the area of all the buildings down there and asked if we wanted to lease the store out for something, and we kind of didn't really know what we were going to do, and we're state certified to grow and sell CBD products, so let's start a little CBD store, and then all of a sudden let's do something else in here. We don't, not just CBD. There's a lot of local, natural, handcrafted people out there that believe in the other plants too,
Right.
not just the cannabis plant. They're believing in the elderberry syrup like I do, and the
lavender,
and the teas, the turmerics, the natural soaps, all natural
Right.
products. You
Turmeric,
know,
good for
all
arthritis, for
contain-
example.
yeah, stuff that's not full
lot
of a
of the
bunch of
same
fillers.
terpenes that cannabis do.
Yeah,
They're all related in the plant world.
so that kind of branched itself into H&M Wellness Store. You know, let's make it kind of a local, natural,
great.
handcrafted
And
marketplace.
so
here.
you see CBD advertised in gas stations, and that's bizarre. But then, in a heavy tourist town like Traverse City, do you get guests who come in kind of like, should I be in here? Or are they confused? Or are you finding guests are walking in, just checking things out? Because you're located on 502 A East Front Street. That's right by Front Street Tattoo, right?
Yep.
Okay, so people know where to go.
Mhm.
But, that's a good part of the walking. That's the beginning. Are people coming in just mesmerized and you have the chance to share your experience with them and sell them?
Yeah, there hasn't been too many people that, when we first opened, a lot of people thought we were a dispensary. When that first year there,
Yeah.
they were.
So you had disappointed people is what you're saying?
Yeah,
I think the store is perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was
Yeah, I
down
mean,
there,
it-
it fits in with the rest of the little arcade that's there
Yeah.
in that building. Like you said, Front Street Tattoo, Little Fleet's right next door. I mean, it's just
Then you walk in
it's,
there, and
it's the
just-
perfect
it's
vibe
like
for that
a bunch
spot.
of local
Yeah.
stuff. You know,
So is because I'm a tattoo person, I've got a lot of tattoos, and knowing that you're by Front Street Tattoo, is there any crossover between industries at all? That may be just an out there question, but is cannabis made it into the tattooing industry? Hemp?
I mean, we've
or
talked about
oils
making
and-
a after cream, possibly.
That's kind of where I was
Yeah,
going. At
for a
like
tattoo.
a salve.
we
or-
haven't had anyone call us or approach us with it, but it's been on our mind, and we just haven't
right.
reached out to anyone else or tried to, I guess, do their R&D on what it would take to make one of those creams right now, which I think we could do.
Are you going to
You know?
get the Urban Meds logo tattooed on your body?
You know,
You never
I
know.
don't have it. I
See
can
how
honestly
branded
say
they
I
are?
do not have a
Yeah.
tattoo.
I don't
Really,
have a tattoo
Brandon?
either, but that would
It'd be
maybe
one of the first
that
ones I
could
probably
happen,
get.
right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, there's a lot of imagery, associated with the industry. You could get the cheesy stuff, but more esoteric. I like the logo. I think it's great. It'd be a lot of color work.
Yeah.
So I have a question that may be ridiculous, and I knew it when I was thinking about it, but we have a friend who has a dog with allergies and crazy anxiety, and nothing seems to be working a little bit from the vet. Are there solutions in the cannabis industry that might apply to dogs?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a dog CBD line.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, we do. It's called Daisy's Dream. And Daisy was actually one of my pets. So she was like our first canine patient to be able to see that if it would work for an older dog and stuff like that. And it was
Wow.
like the fountain of youth for her. So she's not with us anymore, but we've got treats, dog treats and tinctures. I've actually had some of my patients tell me they've soaked their dogs in a bath, one of our like foot soak, bath soak things we make, and it takes their itching and their allergic reactions away from the hot spots, they call them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, that's what our friends say.
we've
And
had
anxiety, they use it a lot.
Yeah, a lot
for
of
that,
people use it for the anxiety.
Pre-storm.
Yeah,
people,
because
dogs.
a lot of people with bigger dogs who are used to protection
yeah.
is riddled with anxiety. But they said their dog crazy anxiety around 4th of July.
Oh yeah,
Even in the days leading up to it.
they know.
Actually,
they know.
we get a lot
There are
of,
thunderstorms of the
tincture
guy-
sell
Yeah,
during
and,
that time.
and we've seen a lot of success with it. Taking it like if you know a thunderstorm's coming,
Right.
do the CBD oil pre-storm hit, because if you try to give them the CBD oil when the storm's already there, dogs are already worked up
Right.
enough to not be able
could
to.
somebody potentially call in a consultative fashion for their pet?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the same way they may for
Yeah,
themselves.
I get a lot of phone
Do you
calls.
really?
Yeah,
I thought that
Pets
may be
are
a silly
very-
question.
I'd probably get two calls a day. Somebody asking about their dog and cat.
Wow.
Yep.
Interesting.
See, all animals have an endocannabinoid system, just like we do.
Look at the same
They recept
benefits.
cannabinoids
Right.
just like we do.
And so a lot of the things that you do that helps, improve quality of life, illnesses, arthritis, chronic pain would apply to a pet.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
I don't think enough
you
people
just
know
don't
that.
really want to give the pets THC.
Right.
From all the readings I've done and experiences I've had with dogs eating my cannabis, it's not really the
Doesn't look like a good
part's
time
not
for
really
that.
that good for 'em.
Yeah.
You know, it
Only
can-
time we do it is when they're in a severe cancer
Yes, we
situation.
have
or something,
worked
then
with
we'll
some-
implement it, but it still will be CBD dominant
Yeah.
on the ratio.
No, so if you know, what does the veterinary community think about this? Is that similar to, you know, a traditional doctor who says, I'm not saying yes or no, but
Vets have been stricter, haven't
Vets have been pretty strict about it, you know.
they? I think they have big FDA
right.
on them for something. It seems like they have been. I've seen more doctors flipping around than vets. Seem
Sure.
to just
Yeah.
want to not even anything. They want nothing to do with it.
Right.
Well, everyone's scared because they don't understand CBD is federally legal. It's not state, it's federal legal. Like,
Yeah.
banks won't work with it.
Right.
That's, you know, it's like, dude, this is
saying it's not
this is-
currency?
yeah, it's federally legal though. Like, we have to do background checks for our licenses through the FBI, not the Michigan State Police anymore. We have to actually do it through the Federal Bureau. So it's like,
Wow.
I think that if anyone's listening to this and you're really questioning it, you should look into that. It's CBD is federally legal. You should try it more in the veterinarian clinics. You should try it more with your pets than you do things that aren't meant for your pets.
Right.
Systems.
Well,
you know?
it's about education,
Yeah.
and it is. There are so many laws involved with it, just like food and beverage, and
Yeah.
how to. So your website, I think, is particularly helpful. You've got an education portion,
right.
which I think is important for people to be as informed as they can. Now, Charles, you worked maintenance at the Great Wolf Lodge, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So any of that training, did that cross over and apply itself to your current world? Because it's not just about science and agriculture, correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, we do all of our own maintenance on our buildings. You know, we don't hire any of that type of stuff out for the most part. You
Wow.
know, we try and do it in house. You know, one of our employees, Charlie, he's got a maintenance background also. So when he came in, he really had a routine already from his background of taking care of a building. And
They
you
think
know,
people who
we're fully integrated. You know, from seed to oil. So we're doing every step the whole way. So there, you know, there's all that building maintenance, all the
Wow.
insurance, everything for a regular business. Is
I think that stereotype that people involved in the cannabis industry are lazy. That's been completely debunked.
Oh, no, there's
You know,
It doesn't sound like there's any room for that at all,
No.
whether you
no,
partake or
there's
not.
not any room for lazy people.
tell me
in
if
the
this is
industry,
true.
that's for
Yeah,
sure.
what I've heard is that a lot of the young bucks like say this is their dream job. They want in, and come harvest time, they don't even
Yeah.
last
Oh, that's like
more
our
than a
training
day.
Training
Yeah,
period.
that's our training period.
Is
Usually,
harvest.
honestly,
You got to make
like-
it through harvest. If you can't make it through that, then
Right. And we've had some of these younger guys come in and, like you said, they're like, oh, we're going to a cannabis field. We're going to a cannabis hemp field
They get
to
Out
work
there
with
one day.
hundreds of plants. And I mean, they're literally there 2 days. And then it's like,
they get out there and they find out it's work.
well,
Yeah.
yeah,
it's
real
rare.
work.
It's-
You get your rare ones. We got, you know, Charlie's young. He's impressed me. I got my little brother working with us who's
Yeah, we got a good
young, and
crew
he's
right
impressing me. But it's funny to like look back on it and say that we have 2 youngsters that made it and 5 or 6 older fellas
Wow.
and ladies that are,
older than us.
you know, like
Showing 'em
so,
what's what.
so basically the moral of that story is our background of our work ethic, I think was a lot different than it is now. You know, back then it was stricter work ethic. You were hands-on I was landscaping, Luton lawn maintenance for 18 years, you know. I carried that over to
Right.
like work hard.
Yeah.
Get it
Again, you
done,
can't slack.
you know, right.
You're
And
in a
some of
wide
these young-
open
some of
space.
these younger people
Time
that come
sensitive.
into it, they think
Yeah.
that it's just
Yeah.
you throw
You're
a
on
plant
the clock
in the
all the
ground,
time.
it's going to grow and you're going to prosper off of it. Well, no, you have to grow it. You have to feed it. You have to harvest it. You have to water it. All of it. It's work. It's a lot of work to grow cannabis. for sure.
Unbelievable. So, Dave, what was your path to urban meds?
I mean, I did lawn maintenance for 18 years, and I've always used cannabis. I mean, it's always been a part of my life, and I was getting it from him. And then,
So you knew each other previously.
yeah, we went to high
And
school
this is-
together and stuff, and like
Oh,
we broke off and did our separate thing, and then all of a sudden got back together and was getting some smoke from him, and I was like, you know, you can grow this. I mean, this is what we can do. Signed on as a patient and
wow.
taught me how to grow, and we
So he must be a pretty
Decided to
convincing guy.
run
You know,
this
started
guy.
as a patient and now you're partners.
yeah, you know.
10 years later.
Well, you know, it's funny because, you know, when I first was growing, and whenever you're a grower, everybody wants to be your partner. come, let's do this. And, Dave was the only person that I ever considered it. You know what I mean? He had the right mindset and stuff, and the right goals. And
it's kind of how I felt too. I had a bunch of people asking me to be their partner and this and that. And I mean, I went to Florida and I'm just like, well,
we went on a trip and came back with a business plan.
Saw some things. Yeah,
you went to Florida.
Went to Florida on a fishing trip.
Came back with a business plan.
Yep.
See, okay, this is a mini series at least, because that's so. Yeah, a lot of people see your shirt. Hey, what's Urban Meds? And you're like, that's my company. Hey, and so it's hard to figure out who your real friends are.
Yeah, Urban Meds was actually his Instagram handle before we were partners, and we kept trying to figure out what we were going to name the company.
When it was right there.
Yeah. Like if we went back and forth with 100 different names, I'd like to find that folder where all those names are.
So there's a deleted pile of things that didn't make it.
And then one day I went to his house, and him and his wife were like, well, Urban Meds is kind of catchy, And I'm like, it is catchy.
H&M,
and Meds,
In a lot of ways.
So we just stuck with it.
So there's a lot of talk about, the whitewashing of the cannabis industry, because it's an industry. And this is hacky, but Jim Belushi is all over the news about what he's doing. Do you see that necessarily as a negative?
What's he doing?
I didn't see it.
Oh, he's growing. He's got a whole
empire.
empire.
He started a company or something. I mean,
Yep.
they're all jumping on. Tyson's got a company.
I mean, Calvin Johnson applied for recreational.
I think he owns partner of one of the stores.
I guess I'm not as up on the celebrity part of it. Just Jim Belushi caught my eye because I'm like,
Be Real's
Jim Belushi.
always been in it.
Yeah, Be Real. He's one of the. I'd say he's one of the more of the forefathers of the industry.
And I think that's part of we can go back to that one question. Like, what have you seen change in the past 10 years? You've seen it all change throughout America, really, with the cannabis industry. The celebrities coming out and creating their brands, and I use, because everyone was so scared to tell. Like, I've used cannabis.
Right. Well, you'd think if you're an actor and that came out, you're unemployable at this point.
Yeah.
It's like Dennis Hopper on the set of Apocalypse Now.
You have to be either full cannabis or no cannabis in that realm.
Yeah, you got to be Woody, Willie, and Be Real, or Snoop Dogg, or else.
You either take.
I guess that's true. I equated them back in the '90s with just advocates of it, just because they smoked it and it was cool. It wasn't talked about as medicine back then, or maybe it was in an obscure rap lyric, but I just didn't catch it. But now it's embraced as a business. It's embraced as medicine. Yeah. So maybe not the worst thing, that Jim Belushi's on TV promoting.
Jim Belushi's a good dude, man. That's like the
first. The more it's out there, it helps break the stigma.
It's the first celebrity I ever stood out back of the casino and smoked a cigarette with.
Jim Belushi? Really?
The blues band came to the showroom back in '99.
Wow. Did you tell him you loved him in Red Heat?
No, but I did Taking Care of Business is what I said.
Yeah, that's good. Real Men with John Ritter. So can I ask you guys, what is the Pay It Forward program?
Pay It Forward program. We haven't had really many people sign on to it. It was something we developed to try and help keep stock up, I guess, in our, it was for people that wanted to help that, because everyone wants to be a caregiver. Well, you can't just be a caregiver. You got to actually go out, find patients that want you to be their caregiver to supply them with their medical marijuana.
And you have to qualify as well, right?
Yeah, with the state.
Okay.
In that, we have. Yeah. But the Pay It Forward program we developed to where, they could be a caregiver under our program, supply our medicine to their patients. And it's if you're in the beginning, you couldn't transact at all unless it was card to card. You had to have my name, had to be on your card for a legal transaction. So for the Pay It Forward program, for us to be able to reach more than just 5 patients, we could designate our 5 patients as 5 caregivers that are our patients. So then we could pass that forward along. They could still be using Urban Meds medicine made by Urban Meds, but necessarily the second-tier caregivers aren't necessarily growing and making that medicine. They're just a second-tier caregivers providing the medicine made by Urban Meds.
It's a cannabis pyramid scheme. You got you, and then you got your 5. They got their 5.
Yeah. In the beginning,
those
that's
5
how Urban
each
Meds
got
had
5.
to be in the beginning when we first started. When we were caregivers 10 years ago, you had, we were so scared. It wasn't legal. It was, you're getting a couple years in jail if you sell to someone, even It changed. The day it changed, it was when we had that patient die waiting for medicine. Because we could not transact medicine with that patient until his card came in the mail, which at that time would take 6 months sometimes.
6 to 8 months.
That's unfortunate.
And now, what's the time now?
Now it's quick.
A couple weeks.
Quick.
Comes
And
back,
after that, we took it on ourselves to put ourselves at risk. And, if someone signs on with us, we're going to start taking care of you right away. The paperwork will come, but you're sick. You're on a timeline a lot of the people we deal with are on a timeline of their sickness. They only have so much time. So we put ourselves out there a little bit.
That's incredible. There's information on the website about the Pay It Forward program, so people can head there and get more info.
Yep.
And hopefully get involved. So prior to shutdowns and quarantine and all that kind of stuff, how active in the community and maybe the state were you able to be with, live events, educational trade shows, and what were you able to bring if you went to, because I understand, there's trade shows for everything. Were you pretty active in that space?
I mean, more or less the CBD side of things, would help us. We'd go out there as a CBD company to some of these craft shows and talk about it, and then that would.
It's because that's broader.
Well, that's all we could bring there. We're not
right.
We're not a licensed dispensary or licensed through the
right
the program. We're just caregivers.
So you're there giving information.
Yeah, we're
directing
service,
people to your services.
We're service. We're a consultation service.
And would you say you're pretty active in doing that?
Yeah.
Is there a pretty big field for it?
Pre-COVID, we were
doing one
a lot
week.
of events.
Wow,
one craft show a week.
And
probably.
actually, this last summer, our plan was to start to put on some of our own events.
Yep.
Right.
But
have you done?
That's not out of. We're going to do that eventually.
We'll still do.
Have you done? Like Mark mentioned, the tour that we got. Excuse me. Is that something that you've done in mass before to get people interested or to get people to understand what you're doing?
Well, that's what kind of Charles was saying. We have an area in that building that we want to turn into kind of an educational center where we could host an event each night, whether it was us answering questions from people, the community, the public, or it was inviting our vendors from our store that are also very knowledgeable in their medicine, what they're using for natural medicines.
Right.
Just to have an educational question and answering situation, and maybe be able to show you around on what you do, on how we do it from start to finish.
That's a great idea.
And
it was such a cool experience.
Yeah, this whole lockdown thing put that book. I still got the notes in it.
The candle I bought that day just ran down last night.
And
it was the lavender CBD, and my wife is profoundly sad, so I have to get back and get the biggest one you have, if possible. So Traverse City is a big craft beer industry, and you could say that there's maybe kind of similar processes. Is the craft beer industry and the cannabis industry in Traverse City pretty aligned? Do you cross over, or is it like West Side Story? If you meet in an alley, you have to knife fight or something.
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of stores out there, right? There's not many craft cannabis companies.
Right.
I consider us a craft cannabis company because we're doing the one-to-one individualization and helping you understand cannabinoids and terpenes and why you should be using it and taking the time to sit and teach you those things. So, I don't think there's much knife fights for us to run into on the craft cannabis side of it.
That's good.
I don't see much of that.
Right.
Unfortunately, I see a lot of the people just out there seeing them dollar bills. That's what they're seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
Most of Michigan's dispensaries are from Colorado.
Right. They're not even really locally here.
Educate yourself.
Well, I have read about that. There is issues with the caregiver program or laws are constantly under attack, and that there's a big lobby always trying to.
They don't want the craft cannabis guy. They don't want us.
And there is good arguments though. I mean, my wife has cared for patients at the hospital that have basically smoked bad, untested, moldy cannabis, and it messed up their lungs. And
there should be some standards put to the program, maybe.
Yeah,
but
so
unfortunately,
lab testing is important.
Mm-hmm. And we lab, and that's
one thing we do. We go above and beyond.
We take pride in that because, like you said, we're not as caregivers. There's no, like he said, there should be some standards.
Yeah.
There's not, and we do. We test. That's something we do on our own. We're not.
required to.
That's just for the safety, so the patients know.
We're
what
giving
they're getting,
cancer patients that are on stage 4,
Right.
compromised immune systems. We don't want anything we're giving them to compromise them.
Right.
Yeah.
We're there to help them, not to make their situation worse. So we, that's sometimes people, they're like, your stuff, can be a little bit more expensive than average caregiver working out of their house. But we do the testing. Have a commercial lab that we make all the products, and doing the due diligence to make sure it's the cleanest medicine possible we can do.
Not some guys that just threw some seeds in the
Yeah,
backyard.
and that's kind of like we were talking
dried
about
it all
earlier, with people just
willy-nilly.
thinking it's their dream job. They're just going to throw a seed in the ground and grow it. Well, you got to get it there. Like, what if you open that bud up after you're done growing it, it's full of mold? Are you going to put it back in the sack and sell it to somebody? Or are you going to do the right thing and throw it away? Well, a lot of guys, like you're saying, are going to throw it in that bag and
because they got to get their, like you said, dollar bills.
Right.
They're just trying to make money.
They're going to have somebody smoke and inhale something.
We went broke for a long time when we started. It's just like any other venture. We went broke.
You learned the hard way.
Yeah. We sacrificed.
But you fought through it.
We fought through it.
What are some examples of like what's gone wrong?
Oh man!
I mean, we our first batch of one of our first batches of RSO oil that we were making
for a cancer patient.
We tested and it was like a low percentage, and so we just thought it was trash, and we just threw it in the trash. It was thousands of dollars in oil. It wasn't.
Oh, geez.
We didn't even know what we were doing then, and then look back now, we would have been able to work with that and make that medicine work.
Yeah,
and stuff. And it's,
that was one. That was one that was getting hard to get over. All the failures from teaching ourselves how to make the oil right, which is fail. And we were finally about to give up. Like, I don't know if we can do this.
You plowed through.
We plowed through that, got up over the hump, and there's been another time where we ended up getting a bug called russet mites that wipe your garden completely out. We had to cut down genetics that we've had for 8 to 10 years.
Was that a specific bug to the marijuana plant?
It's one that it's more attractive. Yeah,
cannabis.
it's a hemp russet mite, or it's they're nasty like plant termites. You never even know you have them.
Microscopic. You can't see them with the naked eye. You have to see them with a microscope.
So
when you realize something's wrong, it's too late. They're already killing your plant. If you're not microscoping on part of your
and
life,
is that bad for people or just bad for the plant? It just
bad
kills
for the plant.
It's bad for the plant. It's not going to make it through that.
Oh.
That stress, and that was a lesson learned where we had taken in clones from Kentucky, we had taken clones in from Tennessee, from CBD hemp plants, and
just
clones.
We had
in
one
from here.
nursery for everything, and
we learned the hard way.
So you kind of had all your eggs in one basket. All your seeds in one grow.
Yeah. Well, that's part
now
of
each space has its own nursery for its own set. So if something happens to that set, it just happens to that set.
Yeah.
Well, it was kind of a rock and a hard place because the ups and downs to get here was another thing after the oil thing. In the same house, we had a landlord who thought we were making hand over fist money because we're in the cannabis industry. So we jacked our rent up from $700 to $2,000 5 days after the lease was supposed to be renewed.
It was not a rent-controlled district?
And I'm like, what?
That's
and
not cool.
Like, yep. And I'm like, well, can you take credit card? Because we don't have any money. We just started our company. This is our first year.
Yeah, we were 1 year in.
Well, you started out
I'll never forget his words when
he
said, there's a will, there's a way. And I said, yeah, there's a way out the door. We're out of here. We don't have a lease signed. We'll have everything out before the end of the month. And we took down plants that were 6 feet tall, 5 weeks into flower. Just had the whole building built out. And we had to move them all over town to people's houses that we knew. And they all ended up in the same basement. Which a year later, we got russet mites, which wiped out our whole garden. So, I mean,
it's not
to get to where we are right now. There
are several good movies here. It's the trip to Florida that turned into a business plan, and you ski-daddling out of this house with a crappy landlord and keeping things going. Again, the epitome of not lazy.
I like what he said too. That the landlord thought they were making, just
exactly
throwing that in there.
Actually, just got done with all building the whole infrastructure.
He must have heard somebody was chirping in him, like, "Oh, they're making."
Well, did you pull up in front of your? Did you pull up in front of your place with like a new Benz? Is that what tipped him off?
I was actually still,
So, we talked a lot about this industry, and I really appreciate your candid knowledge. I mean, this is very fascinating. I think people need to know this. So you can go to the website. You can go. Is the store? What's the status of the store right now? Are you closed? Are you?
No,
we're
we're
open Tuesday
open.
through Saturday.
Okay.
Yep.
What are the hours?
Tuesday, 11 to 4. Wednesday, 11 to 6. Thursday, 11 to 6. Friday, Saturday, 11 to 4.
Nice job. So, in conclusion, is there a best film that best represents the cannabis industry? You know, a movie that, you know, you think...
That doesn't have Red Man and Method Man in it.
And hopefully not Cheech and Chong. That's a little on the nose. Or it could be. But is there a movie that maybe in earnest really represents what you do, or you just like because it features cannabis, or just a movie that people
It's probably not new enough to represent what we do.
That's a good point.
No.
Nobody's doing that.
You know what I think the closest would be is Homegrown.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
John
that.
Lithgow.
I don't know. I haven't watched
That
it.
was
There's that Zika.
Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
That was a good
Weed
movie.
It is a good
series or
movie.
whatever. I haven't seen that.
Well,
The
Well,
Weed
one-
series? Okay. That's good.
I was thinking of the Homegrown, too. That's a good one.
It is.
You know?
Well, like, if you get down to, like, what the real purpose is, the twist in the end.
The twist in the end.
where,
That's
like,
exactly
where
it.
you realize, like, what local really means.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
it's
That was a
good.
good
That
one.
is a good movie. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I don't
Got me
know if
thinking
I'd be
about watching
spoiling
it,
it for anybody, talking about a movie 20 years old.
Those are some of the best. Those are some of the best.
Yeah.
And again, the best way to contact you.
231-360-6624.
Yep. And
Correct.
if we don't
That
answer,
goes to
it
Dave.
goes to
And
me.
he,
If I don't answer, you got to leave a message, though.
Leave a
So I
message.
know who to call back.
that's good.
We will call
Leave
back.
a voice
With,
message.
you know,
I will call you
name,
back.
specific, anything specific,
Just
or
a
just
name, a number, and I'll get back to you.
And that
as
smooth
soon as I
voice on
can.
the
Yeah.
other end.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's urbanmeds.com, HERBNMEDS.com.
Yep.
And is there's another website, hnmwellnessstore.com.
Yep.
Yep.
That's where you can
So every
order.
product that's in that store is on the website.
Yep.
Including
Available.
hopefully lavender calendars.
Yep.
Lavender
Lavender
Well, there is lavender calendars.
Can't
But,
say candles.
But, you know,
Lavender candles.
before we get going, there's just one thing that I want to say what makes me really proud of these guys is it truly is a family business. And that, you know, if you go down to the store, you see the ladies there holding it down. Also seeing H&M products in other stores around Front Street is a point of pride.
Yeah, that's a blessing.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember meeting the two of you for the first time, and I'd never been able to meet anybody in the industry and see you know, what went on, and immediately I'm like, these are the two coolest dudes I've ever met. And not just because of that, and you know, I'm not going to ask to be a partner, but it just, your passion and your knowledge is so impressive, and I know it's going to come across here. Anything else for the listeners?
We just appreciate all the love we get from everyone.
Yeah.
It's been a blessing on our end.
When it comes to cannabis, you know, you really got to know your source out there.
Yeah,
So
know your source.
do some research into what you're using and getting.
Well, that is amazing. Charles and Dave, thank you so much for your pursuits. And to all those who pursue along with you, helping people find relief to pain, educating them about medical marijuana, and just feel better. And thank you all for listening and pursuing the positive.
Hey, well, there you have it. Urban Meds, Traverse City, Michigan. Find them at hnmwellnessstore.com. Use promo code THEPURSUIT for discounts to our listeners. Also, a big shout out to Tin Lid Hat Company, tinlidco.com. Same promo code, THEPURSUIT. Plenty more pursuits coming. Stay with us. We're going to do this weekly. The Pursuit of Podcast, New Leonard Media.